This image has been making its rounds, and I wanted to talk about it quite seriously this morning. So I'm sure many of you have heard about this incident already. If you haven't, in Moncton, New Brunswick, there was a gang of people that literally attacked and assaulted a mother in front of her child. It is being painted as a anti-Muslim hate attack. And this is where the conversation gets a little murky. If y'all didn't know yet, I'm born and raised in Moncton, New Brunswick. Meaning when I was lynched when I was 11, in the 90s, it was here, in Moncton, New Brunswick. Am I born and raised Muslim? Yes. But more importantly, is I'm born and raised to North African immigrants. The identity of the victim of this particular case has not been identified yet. I believe just from some of the traits that she is likely also a North African woman. And she is not visibly Muslim. And I'm going to go even further and say that Monctonians are not adequately educated enough to know the difference between a Sikh turban and a Muslim hijab. So, unless if it's overt attacks on hijabi women or on the mosque, it's very hard to distinctly say that this is anti-Muslim hate. What it actually is, and that should be even more concerning to everyone, is it xenophobic anti-immigrant hate. Why should this concern everyone? Because it makes the target market of said attacks, the pool of opportunity for victims, vast larger than what we paint it to be when we say it's just anti-Muslim hate. Hi, Ma'at. And it is really important to make the distinction here. It is really, really important. And I say this as someone who was in high school during 9/11. I say this as someone who had to educate on what anti-Muslim hate is. Because, again, they didn't even know what a Muslim was back then either. In fact, they probably assumed most Muslims were just people who wore turbans. Because unfortunately, New Brunswick operates at a 50% functional illiteracy rate. I'm not even talking about functional literate people. I'm talking about functionally illiterate people. We're not even touching on the functionally literate yet. Barely functionally literate. This is the reality. And as much as I really encourage focusing on messages more than I focus on semantics, and I say this as a linguist, when it comes to people explaining their experience, I'm also acutely familiar with the demographic, the history, and everything else here to be able to point out explicitly, specifically, that this was much more terrifying than just anti-Muslim hate. This is xenophobic, anti-immigrant hate, potentially leading into anti-Blackness. Because as a Northeast African femme, I can't specifically or explicitly say that most of the hate that I received was because of my Muslim background. I am not visibly hijabi. My sister is a visible hijabi. There is a distinct difference between the flavor of hatred that she receives and the flavor of hatred that I receive. They are very, very different. One is not more than the other. One is not less than the other. Both are quite disgustingly horrifying. But the accuracy here matters. Because until many of us realize that this is not a divisive issue, that anti-Muslim hate is actually about anti-immigrant hate. It is primarily founded on xenophobia and racism. not on a faith. Until we acknowledge that discomfort, we're going to be perpetually lying to ourselves. We're going to consistently separate amongst ourselves as immigrants and descendants of, and we are not going to acknowledge, address the actual issues. We're not. We are not. It was also misogyny. I don't care if the person throwing punches was another woman. It was also misogyny. When you read the comment threads explicitly on Facebook here in New Brunswick, you hear a lot of the narrative of what was she wearing equivalences. So people, until you realize that the method of oppression is one and the same, and that we are collectively in this together, no matter what marginalized group or targeted group you are a part of, because unmelanated women, you are not marginalized. You are targeted, you are not marginalized. So until you realize what these power dynamics are and where you sit in them and how each of them affects you, because they all do, unless you are an unmelanated, cis, white, het, able-bodied male with fair income. We need to wake up. It is quickly becoming 90s New Brunswick again. 90s Moncton again. That's not where I'm going to be raising my kids. And the irony of the fact that I warned other people about this a year and a half to 2 years ago, and again a year ago. The fact that I warned that this was coming and that we parents of racialized children need to be acutely aware of this mess so that we can address it and protect our children. And the amount of gaslighting and weaponization, both on an individual and systemic basis, that I received for saying out loud, calling it what it is, predicting it. Blinders don't work. And y'all are not equipped to protect our kids like we are. So make sure, if you are an unmelanated person advocating for us, that you are advocating for us and not making this about you. I don't care if you've never seen Moncton this way. I don't care if you think this is not what Canada is. It is. Always has been. This is the only Canada I have ever experienced. And I expect nothing less. Do you feel the discomfort yet? And more importantly, what are you going to do about it?